Okay, you mentioned he was a major part of Nazi propaganda operations. What were his contributions?
Well, for starters, his newspaper, Der Stürmer, worked as a Nazi propaganda to isolate the Jewish scum. The newspaper talked about purifying Germany by removing the Jews.
Oh, so did you ever mention the final solution in front of Streicher?
No, we never did.
And do you think Streicher was aware of the final solution?
Yes, of course. When I delivered the messages to Robert Lay, Stryker would always be close by. And honestly, not much efforts were put in the messages, in keeping the messages a secret. Anyone could have figured out what was happening. And especially with Stryker's connections, he would have easily known that what we were planning.
Okay, so you mentioned that he did knew about the final solution indirectly, and that reflected in its newspaper. How did
Yes.
Stürmer help spread the final solution?
Well, Der Stürmer never mentioned the final solution, as Hitler had banned all the newspapers from mentioning it. Even if Stryker didn't know about the programs, still his newspaper had a lot of influence, and it indirectly sparked the idea for final solution.
Okay, which department were you a part of in the final solution?
I was the part of the program I proposed myself, which was the euthanasia program.
And how did you get the idea for it? What were its objectives?
The idea for it, I got it from Der Stürmer's political cartoons. They depicted getting rid of all the worthless scum in the country. That's how I got the idea. And for the objectives, the major objective was to kill all the subhumans who weren't of value to us, and to our forced labor camps. That's why we aimed to remove all the worthless scums.
Okay, what made Hitler think that the Jews were responsible for the downfall of Germany?
Well, in a speech, Hitler regarded Jews as the inciters of World War, which ultimately led to the downfall of Germany. This made Hitler think that the Jews were responsible for the downfall of Germany.
Okay, once Streicher was kicked out of the Nazi party, what was your role?
One of my main tasks as a secretary to Hess was to monitor the relations of Stryker and other Nazi officials. Therefore, I became familiar with all the power dynamics and the relationships between everyone, his relationships with everyone. That's when I saw his downfall with my own eyes.
Okay, how was Streicher found unfit for the real role of leader in a Nazi party as he was expelled?
Well, within the Nazis, relationships are extremely important. And this is something Stryker could never understand, as he relied too much on Hitler. And during this time period, he didn't realize that his relationships with other important figures was deteriorating. Many people became enemies with Stryker. And this pushed him to be charged with different offenses, like stealing Jewish jewelry, property, spreading rumors about Goring, and verbally abusing the Nazi leader, due to which Stryker was eventually brought to the Supreme Party Court. That's when he was ruled unfit for the leadership.
Okay, Mr. Borrman, why are you testifying against Julius Streicher?
Well, I thought that Stryker being kicked out meant no trial, but I was approached by the Nuremberg lawyers that for a plea deal. I was told that if I testify against Stryker and other Nuremberg lawyers and they were found guilty due to my testimony, I would be given a lighter sentence. I really don't have anything against Stryker, but I have a wife, and she's the only one I have left after Albert. I need to be there for her, take care of her. That's why I'm taking the plea deal.
Okay, last question, Julius. How do you see Julius Streicher, Martin?
Well, I see him as a person who was a major contributor of Nazi propaganda operations. He was someone who influenced and sparked the idea for final solution, which eventually suggested to kill all the subhumans present.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much, Mr. Martin. The prosecution's direct examination is over.
I would like to begin the cross-examination of the prosecution witness, Martin Borrman. So, Mr. Borrman, first of all, I would like to ask, why do you hate Jews so much?
Well, I never mentioned or said that I hate the Jews.
Well, it is clear from your testimony that you're still referring to all other ethnicities, racial groups, beside Germans as subhumans, again and again in your testimony. especially Jews with a very degrading tone. So I would like to end. Your testimony clearly shows that you actually hated Jews, and in fact, it was Julius Streicher, as per you say, was the reason that justified your hate against them. So please, will you answer my question? Why do you hate Jews so much?
Well, as I stated before, hate is a very strong word. I never used it for the Jews, and I never did in my testimony as well.
Well, you killed so many Jews, of course. So it can't be understated that I think hate is a milder word here, I would say. So, so why do you still refer to all other racial groups like Slavs and other racial minorities in Germany and Europe as subhumans? Isn't it? Doesn't it show that you are a racist and a bigoted person?
No, it does not. Like you said, I killed the Jews. I never did that. That's a false accusation.
I believe you were part of a scheme. You were part of a regime that killed so many people. That killed 17 million people in the Second World War. 6 million of them were Jews. 5.7 million of them were Soviet citizens, and a lot of other groups as well. There was Roma community, there were Slavs, and there were other racial minorities in uh, Europe. So you were part of a group, and you facilitated their murder. Of course, you did, because you were a secretary to the deputy Führer, and then you were secretary to Hitler, Adolf Hitler himself. So you cannot deny the charge that you were not part of that. So will you please tell me, are you a racist and a bigoted person?
As I
Objection,
stated
Your
before,
Honor. On the grounds of being a compound question, you cannot ask two questions to the witness at the same
No, I
time.
made a statement. I
The
made a
attorney is
statement, and then I
continuously
asked my
asking
question.
three questions at the same time. I would like the attorney to make these questions shorter and ask what he likes to ask to the witness, but don't ask compound questions.
Okay, that's well
It was
taken objection. Do you have a response, defense counsel?
Your Honor, I was making a statement, and then I asked a single question. It was not a compound question. It was a statement of fact, and it was followed by a question. Uh, can we move on to other questions, Your Honor?
Yes, prosecution.
Okay. So I would like to ask
No.
Martin Borrman.
Sorry. Defense counsel, I believe that prosecution counsel was going to make a statement or have a response to what you just said.
Yes, please.
Yes, Your Honor.
Prosecution, do you have a response? Yeah.
Yes, Your Honor, I have a response. I'd still ask the defense counsel that kindly ask normal questions that you want to, but don't ask compound and argumentative nature questions that indulge the witness into any argument on any nature of the characteristics of the witness. You may ask any questions you like.
Quite noted.
On the compound question objection, I'm going to sustain the objection because although the questions that you're asking may not be compound, defense counsel, this is a bit of a general mock trial advice as well. I believe that currently you're stating a lot of facts and then you're kind of repeating everything that the witness said and then asking them a question at the end of all those statements. And although that might not be a compound question objection, prosecution attorney, you can take note of this. You can object to something called counsel testifying because a attorney is frankly not allowed to say all of the statements of a witness or essentially argue with the witness on cross-examination. You're trying to extract facts from the witness. And I do believe that right now, your style of saying a bunch of things and then asking a question is not really fitting for a cross-examination. So I'm going to sustain that objection. And please, in the future, refrain from arguing with the witness and try to keep your questions shorter so that you can get the witness to respond more and to kind of attack their credibility by kind of seeing where their responses take them and not just arguing with them. So please save all of your arguments right now. They're very good arguments, but please save for closing statements.
Thank you, Your Honor. So my next question is, why did you invent the fact that Jews perform ritualistic murders as honoring the Satan?
I'm really sorry, attorney. I couldn't get your question. I would be really obliged if you please rephrase it.
How did you invent the fact? Why did you invent the fact that Jews were performing ritualistic murders?
It wasn't a fact which was invented. Facts are never invented by us. So it wasn't. It is written
Okay.
in line
So,
number 40.
Do you believe that Julius Streicher was the one that stated the fact in any of his newspaper that Jews were performing ritualistic murders that you used against you are using against him as a testimony and your testimony?
Yes, since it is written in the newspaper, we can say that.
Okay. So, how
In all
how
his
would you
articles.
how would you like to answer to the question that Julius Streicher was just as unemployed as you were. He was facing the financial hardship after the Great War, and he was unemployed, and he wanted to make a living for his family, just like you did, just like you joined the Nazi Party. He did join the Nazi Party.
Well, I don't see how that is related to me, but he started Der Stürmer because he wanted, like, there were other newspapers at the time as well. He started Der Stürmer just for the sake of it, for promoting what the people said.
So you were part of you held a position of power. Of course, it was much larger than strikers. So, uh, do you agree that the Nazi propaganda apparatus was much larger than the single newspaper of Julius Streicher, Den Stürmer?
Well, the newspaper of Julius Streicher influenced the Nazi propaganda operations.
So, what do you know about the Nazi ideology in the first place?
Well, I don't see how Nazi ideology is related here.
Your Honor, I would like to say that the Nazi ideology was an ultra-nationalist, racist, and a murderous regime that wanted to kill all human beings beside Germans and make the home of make all of the make Germans the superior nation and called all other racial ethnicity subhumans. So this is a point to be noted. So my next question is, how come Stryker never made it to the top of the Nazi command, to the top of the Nazi leadership, when he was so influential?
Because he was kicked out of the Nazi party.
So if he was so influential on their policy making, just like you stated, I how do you reconcile with the fact that he was so disposable?
I'm really sorry, attorney. I don't get your question. Can you please rephrase that in easier words?
Julius Streicher seems to be a disposable person here. He was not like Hitler or something that can't be replaced. So I'm saying that how do you reconcile it with the fact that why was he such a disposable person when he was so influential?
Objection,
Well,
Your Honor.
like I stated before,
Yes. What grounds is your objection on?
Ma'am, Your Honor, on two grounds. First, vague and being ambiguous, and second, on relevance. The question cannot be understood by the witness, and that does not have any relevancy over the fact of the counts that we are trying Julius Streicher on. He is being counted on two counts of genocide and incitement of crimes against humanity. I cannot understand that these questions, this particular question, how does it have any relevancy or being vague and any relation to what the counts are on Julius Streicher?
Response
I would
from
like to
defense.
answer. I would like to answer, Your Honor. It is important that I ask this question because the point is here to establish that Julius Streicher was an inconsequential and uh, a person of minor stature in the Nazi Party. That he couldn't be in a power. He was not in a power of in a place of power where he could influence their policy making.
Could you
And
please?
it is a valid it is a valid and relevant question.
Defense counsel, could you please repeat the question that you just asked?
I was saying that, Your Honor, Julius Streicher seems to be a very disposable person. He was kicked out of the party. So why do you still call him an influential person over their policy making?
I see. Any final words from prosecution?
The last question I seem to hear of was, why do you think, Martin Borrman, that Julius Streicher was disposable? This was the exact wording which I objected to. So if the counsel of defense can rephrase the question, I am good with it.
Okay, I'm going to overrule this objection because relevance as an objection. Sorry, my bad.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Quick comment. Relevance in a general is a objection that is kind of hard to make because relevance has a very low bar, and anything that is like almost probative or helpful to the case would be counted as relevant. So I feel like prosecution attorney, I'm going to overrule it, but for the future, if you want to object to the particular questions that defense counsel is asking, you can feel free to look for other objections, such as counsel testifying or argumentative. But for now, I'll overrule it and defense can proceed. But also beware of your time.
Okay, a few other questions are remaining. So I would like to ask Martin Borrman that how much responsibility do you personally take for what the Nazi party did to all other racial ethnicities like Jews and Slavs?
Like I said before, I don't have anything against Streicher. That's why I don't get why do I have to take the responsibility for what was happening to the Jews.
I do not see that. So you don't feel any kind of moral pain for what happened to Jews, any moral qualms or qualms of conscience?
Well, attorney, I don't really think that I'm here to give my condolences to the Jews.
So do you believe what happened to Jews was right? What was done to them?
I never said that.
Right?
I never said that.
It is. So why do you still refer to all other human beings? I would ask again because I did not get a proper answer to this question. Why do you still refer to them as beneath you, like subhumans, like scum? The words like scum, these are bigoted and racist words.
Objection, Your Honor.
Yes, on what grounds?
Repeated. It was already asked in the first, it was a second question asked by the defense counsel, and it was already answered by my witness.
Could you repeat the question, defense counsel?
Your Honor, I just, because I couldn't get the proper answer to this question earlier, I asked it again that why do you still refer to all other racial groups as subhumans and especially Jews as scum? Doesn't it prove? I'm trying to make a point that Martin Borrman and the Nazi party was a racist, and a bigoted entity.
Okay, I do remember this question being asked multiple times in various forms. I think it's trying to get through to the same message, and hence I'm going to sustain that objection. Please move on to asking about other questions. I think you've already made your point.
How could this have influenced the final solution when Julius Streicher never advocated for mass killings of Jews?
Well, Stürmer clearly stated the thoughts and the views of the people. That's how it influenced that.
Thank you, Your Honor. That concludes my testimony. No more questions to be asked.
Any redirects from prosecution?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, then the witness may be excused. Prosecution, you can call your second witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. I would like to call a second witness, Mr. Eamon Goethe. If the permission is granted, shall the attorney proceed with direct examination of Mr. Ammar?
Yes.
Thank you, Your Honor. My first question to the witness is, would you please state your full name and age for the record?
Yes, sure. My name is Ahmad Leopold, but people usually call me Ammar. And I'm
Okay.
18 years of the age. I was born in 1908 in Vienna.
Okay. For the record, please tell us if you were compelled or forced otherwise to testify.
No, not at all. I'm testifying voluntarily and was not subpoenaed or compelled to testify.
Noted. Please provide us with an insight of your sentiments for the German nation.
Well, I'd say I was filled with a passion for guarding against Bolshevism and restoring the dignity of German peoples. And Austria, and Germany were just a few years ago great proud sisters, but were shattered and humiliated by the unjust and cowardly actions of the entitled powers too fearful of the growing German prosperity and interests.
Okay, and why did you join Heimwehr?
Well, uh, for the record, I joined Hamburg in 1927, and I joined it because it was evident that uh, leadership was too weak to to make real change when they were forced into an unfavorable compromise with the social democrats.
Is that what is your view on the leadership in Heimwehr? That it was very weak?
Yeah, it was weak, and I felt that it was a betrayal of myself and arms who marched through the streets in demonstration not to compromise with the Marxists.
Okay, Mr. Leopard, how did you end up smuggling radios and weapons in Austria?
Well, I became a wanted man, to be honest, and shortly afterwards, the Nazi Party was declared illegal in Austria. So consequently, we were forced to flee the country and set up operations in Munich. And I was indeed assigned to continue smuggling radios and weapons into Austria.
Okay, please elaborate. How did Der Stürmer influence your feelings for the Jewish nation?
Sorry, I couldn't catch it.
I will repeat. Please elaborate, how did Der Stürmer, the newspaper of Julius Streicher, influence your feelings for the Jewish nation?
Well, I'd say I've had a rough time back then, and there was one thing that helped me pass that rough time, and it was the Stürmer.
Okay. It is also noted that you were promoted to Einsatzführer. Please tell us, what were you tasked with?
Yeah, I'm just sure I was indeed promoted there in the middle of 1941. And in this position, I remember I was tasked with leading one of the Einsatzgruppen, which had the assignment of cleaning up the positions of Europe which we occupied.
Eamon, why do you think you were promoted in the first place?
I mean, I don't know. I would say maybe I was squeamish because of that, and other people, this act of callousness, other people couldn't do.
Okay. Please tell me tell us about the details of your task as the leader of one of the Einsatzgruppen.
Sorry, I couldn't catch your point.
I will repeat. Please provide us with the details of your task as one of the leader of Einsatzgruppen.
So basically, this included the elimination of resistance leaders, along with the leeches on the society, Jews, of course, first and foremost, but also prostitutes, gypsies, and the like.
This task of eliminating people, do you think it was easy?
No, it was certainly hard at first. It certainly was hard. But then you come to realization that not everyone in human is still skilled, to be honest, qualifies to, you come to the realization that maybe they don't deserve it.
That's a very bold statement to make. How do you keep reaffirming your ideology that not everyone is worth saving?
Well, as I said earlier, that I've read the Stürmer and it did help me uh, pass the time and have those beliefs.
Okay. During your service, were you also assigned to SS Totenkopf Verbande?
Yeah, I was in early 1942. I was, as I reckon, I was assigned to the SS Totenkopf Verbande and instructed to oversee the Krakow Plaza camp.
So that was your assignment to oversee the construction of the camp?
Yes,
And
I
how was it
was.
being constructed?
Well, it was constructed through the usage of Jewish and other prisoners available, and I had to look around for 1 month.
Okay, and what happened after the construction was completed?
Well, after that, as I remember, later that I was assigned to liquidate various ghettos and concentration camps, and to reassign the population to the Plaza camp.
And how did you achieve this assignment and completed your task?
I'd say they were sick and elderly people injured, and the liquidation process was mostly held by the help of a pistol.
Okay. Please elaborate what do you mean by liquidation of the concentration camps and how it was achieved by you and your group?
Okay, so as I said, that it was achieved through the pistol, and it was a process of decreasing people from the population who were weak, injured, and this was a gruesome work, I would say. Yeah.
If it was gruesome and dirty work, then it must have been really hard to keep the guards' faith in doing what they were doing, right?
Yeah. Indeed, it was. It was tricky business.
Objection, Your Honor.
Keeping the camp guards fed in the dark.
So what was the objection?
Leading question.
Could you repeat the question, prosecution attorney?
Yes, Your Honor. And the prosecution asked that it must have been very hard to keep the guards' faith in doing what they were doing.
Yeah, I agree that that is the leading question, but please just rephrase and re-answer the question.
Okay. Then the prosecution will move towards the next question. And my question to the witness is, how did you make the guards keep doing what they were doing, provided that they were squeamish about it?
Well, I would say I do admit that there is a degree of callousness in the work that was done in the camps. And although the utilitarian benefits were fairly clear, it was precisely this utilitarian benefit which the guards were reminded of at every opportune moment. And this benefit which the guards were reminded of at every opportune moment, this process actually began before the SS guards were assigned into the camps, partly eliminated by the falsehood in the press.
Okay, and did any newspapers and specifically Der Stürmer had any role in re-establishing this ideology in the guards?
Well, of course it did. That Stürmer was at the time had become very popular, as I remember, and it had been a talk of the town, and it was famous around around the city and everywhere. So it did play a part, and
Okay.
all the SS scouts and people they used to read it. So it did motivate that gruesome.
Your point is noted. My last question to you is, how was Der Stürmer different from other papers?
From other magazines and newspapers? Is that what you're asking?
Yes, that is exactly my question.
And as I said, it was popular among the masses, and it was far, far famous than other newspapers.
Okay, thank you so much. The prosecution has no further questions. Thank you.
Okay, cross-examination.
Okay, Mr. God, you mentioned that you are testifying voluntarily, yet you also acknowledge that the prosecution has offered you a very attractive bargain. How can you be sure that your testimony is not influenced by the desire to avoid the death penalty?
Could you please make it sure that I didn't quite get your point?
You mentioned that you are testifying voluntarily, yet you also acknowledge that the prosecution has offered a very attractive bargain. How can we be sure that your testimony is not influenced by the desire to avoid the death penalty?
Still not getting your point.
It's a simple question.
Well,
How can we be sure that your testimony is not influenced by the desire to avoid the death penalty? Because you were the main part, you killed the people.
Well, I've accepted
was- it-
already that I do have regrets. I've accepted earlier that I do have regrets.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So you accepted that. Okay. Noted. Mr. Gott, you stated that SS doctors deemed you mentally unsound and even placed you in a mental facility. Isn't so?
Sorry,
Isn't it correct?
what is correct? That
You
I was
stated that
mentally
SS
upset.
doctors deemed you mentally unsound and even placed you in a mental facility. Isn't so? Isn't it the case?
I was
Okay,
just,
okay, okay. My question is, let me complete my question. Like I was stating facts. Now now my question is that, can you explain why these doctors who were part of the same organization you served would make such a determination if it were not accurate?
because as I said that I was I lost my job and I started smuggling videos and in the city, and because of that I had lost my job.
So I think that you didn't get my question. My question is simple. My question is as simple. Like, can you explain why these doctors who were the part of same organization you served would make such a determination if it were not
Objection, Your
accurate?
Honor.
Yes, on what grounds?
Objection on the ground of being argumentative. He is indulging the witness into arguments. And secondly, the facts he is stating are not mentioned in the affidavit of Mr. Rehman.
Any response to that?
Your Honor, in the line number 139 of the affidavit, it is clearly mentioned that he was declared mentally unsound and even placed in the mental facility. So I'm just asking that the doctors were of the same organization. So how can he deny the fact?
Yes, Your Honor. The
Yes,
prosecution
prosecution.
replied
Yes.
that in the facts it is stated that the allegations were made about the mental condition. However, the witness has not agreed to these allegations, and the facts state that actually Mr. Rehman is admitting that he was perfectly sound and competent to make any testimony.
Response from defense.
Your Honor, I am asking just a simple question that the doctors were of the same organization in which Mr. Ammar was working.
Okay. I'm going to overrule that objection. I will say though that defense counsel, I believe, asked this question a few times, so I think you should move on soon. But for now, I'll overrule. Please continue.
Mr. Ammar, how old are you?
How old am I?
Yeah.
I was born in 1974, as I mentioned.
No, I'm asking how old are you? I'm not asking when you were born.
I think the calculation.
Oh, it means that you don't remember what is your age. Quite surprising that a person don't remember his age. Applaudable. Moving towards my next question. Tell the court about your nationality. Are you
Sorry?
German? Are you German?
Did I not mention that
Are you German?
I mentioned that earlier in the direct examination?
Tell me, are you German? Just answer yes or no.
in German.
In the middle of 1941, you were promoted to which post? Simple.
Objection, Your Honor.
Let me tell you.
It's irrelevant.
Yes.
Irrelevant.
Could you explain why it's not relevant?
Because his
Prosecution?
promotion has nothing to do with the charges brought against Julius Streicher, and it is not advancing any of the claim of the defense.
Response from defense?
Your Honor, I am challenging the credibility of the witness. I am challenging his mental state. I am challenging that it is unworthy witness, so that I can ask, because there is a contradiction in his affidavit and, you know, like in his testimony. So these are the grounds for the impeachment of a witness.
Final response from prosecution?
The prosecution replies that if the defense attorney will properly ask the question in a normal way and not repeat it again and again, then my witness will be able to answer him. But instead, he is just confusing with his tone and his mannerism.
Okay, so I'm going to overrule on relevance. I do think that challenging credibility is definitely relevant, but please, defense attorney, you can try asking your question in a nicer tone, a more professional tone.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Proceed.
Next question. What was the name of your boss man, Mr. Amon?
What was the name of my boss man? Well,
Why
the
are you taking so much time to answer that? It's as simple, because you have simply mentioned that in your affidavit. Why it is taking you so long?
Well, I apologize. I must say that the biggest boss of all was Führer indeed.
May the prosecution raise a point?
You repeat,
It is
what
not an
was his name?
objection, but I would like to highlight something.
Sure. I believe that's not formal court procedure, but what is the point?
With the permission of Your Honor, I would like to say that the defense attorney is merely emphasizing on the minute details of the affidavit and not actually checking the credibility, as it is, as we are all aware that this is a trial and my witness is under a lot of pressure, so it is very reasonable to assume that he might be forgetting a few minute details. So if the defense attorney will most respectfully focus on the things which are important and are relevant to the case and are relevant to their argument, that would be really appreciated.
Prosecution attorney, your point is well taken. However, I do believe that it is your witnesses, even though they might feel pressured, it is your witnesses' responsibility to know what they put in their affidavit. It's natural for them to feel a little bit pressured in cross-examination, and I would say the best you can do to help your witness out in this situation is to look for objections in the way that the defense attorney is asking questions. But your point is well taken. However, I cannot really do anything about it. If that is something that you wish to bring up in your closing statement, the style of how the opposing counsel is asking questions, that's something you can feel free to argue in closing arguments. But for now, all you can do is make objections to the defense counsel's questions. And apart from that, there's the defense counsel has every right to challenge even the small minute details of the witness's affidavit or testimony, just for their credibility.
Okay, noted, Your Honor.
Next question.
Yeah.
What was the role of SS Studentenkörperverband, the organization you were working for? What was its role?
I did work in it, and I mentioned in the examination that
No,
it was.
I'm talking about the role of that organization, not
Objection, Your Honor. The
Yes.
counsel is not letting the witness complete his answer.
Yeah, I believe the right objection for that would be badgering the witness.
Yes.
But I agree with that. I'll sustain that objection. Please, defense attorney, let the witness finish answering your question before you ask a follow-up
Your
question.
Honor. Okay, noted, Your
So
Honor.
please don't interrupt him.
This
Continue,
included,
and also be aware that your time is up. So try to wrap up pretty quickly.
Yes, Your
this
Honor.
included the elimination of resistance leaders and along with the leeches on society, the Jews, of course.
Last question. What was its symbol? The symbol of that organization for which you were working for? Yeah.
Objection, Your Honor. This is outside. outside the scope of cross-examination, and this detail is not provided in the case packet.
I will say that response from defense.
Your Honor, this thing is mentioned in affidavit that he has worked for the organization. How is that possible that he don't know the symbol of that organization for which he was working for a while? Like, isn't it strange?
May the prosecution reply to that?
Yes, response.
We have been very clearly told that we cannot bring any additional or extra information, and as per the case packet provided to us, no details regarding the logo of the
This isn't-
organization have been provided.
Can I respond that? Your Honor.
Yes, final response. Defense.
Your Honor, simple is that it is connected with the thing that he has mentioned in his affidavit. So if he is working for an organization, he should know the symbol for what he was working for. Simple as that. It is a link thing, not a separate thing.
Your Honor, again, it is not provided, so we cannot make up the facts. And we cannot bring up any additional information which is not provided to us.
Okay, I'm going to make a ruling here. I think I'm going to overrule the objection because, first of all, out of scope doesn't refer to the witness doesn't know this information. I feel like the correct objection here would be lack of personal knowledge. However, I will say that since this is cross-examination, if the witness is unfamiliar or if they don't know the answer, then they can just say that they don't know. And even if information is not directly provided in the case file, in the event of cross-examination, because you can't really anticipate what all the questions that the crossing attorney is going to ask you, you can feel free to infer responses from your affidavits to answer on cross-examination. So I will overrule that. But yeah, last question.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Okay. Any redirect examination?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, great. Then we are ready. Then the defense side can begin by calling their first witness.
Your Honor, will begin by the direct examination of Julius Streicher. Mr. Streicher, what do you do for a living?
I established a newspaper called Der Stürmer, which used to be an official newspaper of the Nazi Party.
So, how do you describe your professional background prior to founding Der Stürmer?
I started my career as an elementary school teacher at a school in the Franconian city of Nuremberg. I later enlisted the German army during the First World War and was awarded several honors. After the war, I returned to teaching, but the economic conditions in Germany were dire.
So, Mr. Streicher, what drove you deep into politics and established Der Stürmer?
The trauma of my country's defeat and the economic struggles drove me to engage in politics. I joined the Nazi Party and participated in the Bear Hall Push in 1923, and subsequently I turned to publishing Der Stürmer to support myself and my family.
So, what was the primary purpose of Der Stürmer, the newspaper you founded?
Der Stürmer reflected the views of many Germans at the time. It contained exaggerated caricatures and cartoons, often targeting individuals blamed for country's crisis. However, I never directly called for violence against Jewish people.
So, were you aware of the atrocities committed against Jewish people in the concentration camps?
No, for the vast majority of the publication of Der Stürmer, I wasn't aware of the extent of the atrocities.
So, Julius, did you agree with all the policies of the Nazi Party?
I largely agreed with the sentiment that Jewish people were causing problems in Germany. However, I never advocated for violence against them. My views were aligned with the commonly held beliefs at the time in Germany.
So, Julius, did you continue to publish Der Stürmer after learning about the concentration camps?
Yes, I did. Out of fear for my safety and reputation, I didn't want to be labeled as a sympathizer to Jewish people.
Uh, my next question is, why were you kicked out of the Nazi party?
I had disagreements with other party members, and I was accused of keeping confiscated Jewish jewelry. While the accusations were true, they were motivated by personal animosity within the party.
Did you personally participate in any legislative meetings to determine Nazi party actions or their policies?
No, I didn't personally participate in any legislative meetings to determine Nazi party actions. My role was primarily focused on publishing their Stürmer and delivering speeches that aligned with the party's ideology. I wasn't involved in the decision-making process of the party leadership.
So, what was your role within the Nazi party, particularly in terms of propaganda?
Within the Nazi, yeah, sure. Within the Nazi party, my role centered on propaganda and dissemination. I primarily published their Stürmer. My involvement was limited to shaping public opinion through the content of the newspaper and occasional speeches. I wasn't engaged in logistical or operational planning within the party.
Did you advocate for the murder or extermination of Jewish people in your publication?
No, I didn't advocate for the murder or extermination of Jewish people in my publication. While the content of their Stürmer may have been provocative and exaggerated, it wasn't a platform for promoting violence or genocide. Any calls to actions were aimed at marginalizing Jewish individuals from positions of influence or advocating for their deportation, not their extermination.
So, do you maintain your maintenance in regard to the charges brought against you, especially uh, the crimes against humanity and genocide?
Yes, I maintain my innocence in regard to the charges brought against me. While I acknowledge the controversial nature of their Stürmer content, I never directly called for violence or participated in any actions that led to the persecution of Jewish people. My intent was to express commonly held beliefs of the time and provide for my family during a period of economic struggle in Germany.
Thank you, Mr. Streicher. No more questions, Joe.
May the prosecution start the cross-examination? Okay, Mr. Julius, am I audible to you?
Yeah, you are audible.
Okay, Mr. Streicher, can you just be brief? You testified that you never directly called for the death or murder of any Jewish people, right?
Yeah.
Isn't it true that the content in Dunn's sermons frequently demonized Jewish people and depicted him as subhuman, right?
Well, as far as the content of the my
Witness, I
publication is
just want a
concerned,
yes or no. I'll
let me
ask for
answer first.
applications,
Your Honor,
explanations
I want to answer
when I
my
want
question
them.
first.
I just want yes or no.
I'm elaborating my answer because I can't answer this in yes or no.
But why can't you?
I'm a party representative and a witness to here.
Are
So
you
let
a
me
party
first speak and
representative?
then I
You're not a
will
party.
take
You're
your
not
next
a
question.
party representative witness. You are, as Julius Streicher, represented before the court of criminal. You have been expelled from NASDAQ. Firstly, I would like to correct that. Secondly, I just want a yes or no. I'll ask for applications when and explanations when I want them. Can
Objection,
you
Your
please?
Honor.
Your Honor.
Objection, Your Honor.
Sorry, was there an objection?
On badgering the witness.
Yeah, I'm going to sustain that objection. I'd say in the future, if you want a yes or no to your question, then don't interrupt the witness to ask for a yes or no. Instead, just let the witness finish their response first, and then say, respectfully, for the sake of the jury's time, I'd like to please keep your answers to a yes or no. But don't are they are answering and don't interrupt them. So sustain.
Perfect. I just did that for the time constraint. Anyway, shall the prosecution resume the cross-examination? So witness, now I would like to ask you to restrain your answers to just yes and no. I would like to rephrase that question. Was it true that the content of Stürmer dehumanized Jewish people? Yes or no?
Yes, the content of Der Stürmer publication was related to dehumanizing
Oh,
the Jewish people
oh,
and uh, things like that.
perfect, perfect, perfect. These caricatures and these content often portrayed Jewish people as dangerous and corrupt. Yes or no?
Your Honor, I'm again requesting you that my answer will not be complete in yes or no. Let me elaborate so that I can represent myself in front of you and I can present my testimony and my uh, uh, concern regarding the case. The attorney is just asking me to answer my question in yes or no. So it's not possible for me to just answer the question in yes or no because I'm a I'm a defense side from and I'm representing the defense side, so I am eligible to elaborate my answer and to defend myself.
30 seconds, me.
Yeah, Your Honor. I'm requesting you to ask
Your
the
Honor?
attorney to elaborate my answer because my answer is will not be elaborated in yes or no. So
Your
ask him
Honor?
Well, I
to
think,
let me answer.
first of all, I think as a witness, I definitely understand what you're saying, Mr. Stryker. But as a witness, it's most of the time not court procedure to talk to the judge directly. I get what you're saying, but that's not something you should be talking to me about. That should be something that you're explaining to the attorney who's asking you the questions. Like, you'd be like, counsel, you don't understand the nature of these events. I need to elaborate in order to get a full picture. And then it will be the attorney's job to try to control you and to ask their questions in a way that makes you reply yes or no. So next time, don't talk to me about it, but if the attorney is trying to control your answers, then you can talk to them about it and explain your need to elaborate. But then again, you can also choose questions on which to fight and elaborate and questions on which to just say yes or no. And as for who should be addressing the judge, if one of the attorneys objects non-responsive, then it will be my role to determine if you, Mr. Stryker, the witness, is truly not answering the question or if you're just elaborating. So,
Your Honor, may the
yeah.
prosecution speak? When I ask the question, it is the discretion of the attorney to ask the witness and control witness. Witness cannot say that I would not answer this question. Rather, his answer shall be depicted in a way that he states the point he wants to state. He cannot just refuse and use his Fifth Amendment rights to stay silent. Third, I would like to say that even if it is there some issue, their defense attorney should raise an objection, then you should reply, and then they shall hear. My cross-examination was based on leading questions. The first question was whether he was directly for the death or murder on any Jewish people or not. The witness said yes. The next three questions were just to explain that his consequences and his being irresponsible led to the death of all the people. To all the questions, the witness said yes. So I would like that point to be noted. And okay, what was the circulation of your magazine in 1933?
It was one of the most popular newspaper at that time. It was on its peak, and everybody was reading my publication, which was related to the Nazi propaganda and the dissemination of the hateful speeches and hateful contents of the Nazi
Defense,
party, which I was
Julius, it was
supposed
not my
to
question. My
mention
question
in my
was in 1933,
publication. So
what
that's
was
why
your circulation figures? Just simple. What was your circulation figures in 1933?
500,000. It was 500,000. Land council. It was 500,000.
Okay, it was 25,000, not half a million. And what were it in 1938?
500,000. It was 500,000 per week, and just you were saying 25,000 is, yeah.
Okay, Your Honor, kindly note this discrepancy in the affidavit and testimony. Secondly, in 1938, what was your circulation figures?
Uh, I exactly do not remember the statistics I taste my exhibit in my
Perfect.
testimony along with the testimony.
Okay.
So you
Point
can,
taken. Point taken,
Your Honor,
Julius.
you can take reference from that.
Perfect,
As the
Julius. Point
statistics
taken.
and the numbers can't be remembered, memorized
Julius.
or
Okay, I'll tell
certainly
you.
said.
It was four
So
lakh
the estimated value I mentioned
73,000.
earlier.
Can you kindly tell me the reason why was this a sudden rise in your circulation figures? And this was the exact time period as per explained in Exhibit F that states in 1933 to 45, 60 lakh Jews were killed. And in 1933, your circulation figures were 25,000. In 1938, it was 4,73,000. Your circulation figures rose, the death of Jews rose, and at the same time, in your witness testimony, you accept this fact that you had a great connection with Hitler. Now, how do you justify this?
All right. Let me first clear this that
Objection,
as
Your
far
Honor.
as
Yes, on the grounds of
Compound question.
what was the question? Could prosecution please repeat the question?
Perfect, ma'am. Perfect, Your Honor. I asked that in 1933 and 38, your figures rose suddenly. What was the reason of it? The reason of two facts that was stated in the case file. The main question I asked to the witnesses, what is your reason?
Okay.
Request withdrawn, Your Honor.
Okay, great. Then I would still like to ask though, if you are stating a fact and then asking a question, I would prefer that you break that up into two questions and ask the witness to confirm the fact before you ask the question.
Your Honor, the previous question was that was it the fact, right? The witness said yes. Then I said that this happened. So the witness is only allowed to tell the reason.
let me answer this learned counsel.
Okay.
As far as you mentioned about the rise in my circulation, I will merely clear this that I was just supposed to disseminate the Nazi propaganda and the Nazi policies and the operational and logistical policies which they were asking me to do. And I was so pressurized, and at that time in Germany, anybody who was disobedient to Hitler would be killed and executed. You can take an example of Roham, who was killed, who was the leader of SA. So that's why I was so fearful of my safety, and I just took the order from Hitler and the Nazi party, and I disseminated
Okay.
the publication, and it was the Nazi party
Julius,
who was involved
defendant, it
in
was not asked.
the
It
large
was not asked. The
circulation of
question was not
my
there.
magazines,
I just asked for
my
the reason
content
which
of the
you
publication.
did not answer for it. Okay, fine. Next question is,
I
did you
answered this
agree that
question,
you
Learned
went too
Counsel.
far with the
Let me make
publication
this
of this
clear.
magazine?
You are misleading.
Did you
You are
agree?
misleading the
A
judge.
point taken, defendant. I'm
I
asking you,
answered
did
this
you
already.
agree that
You are
you
misleading the
you
you
went
are
away too
misleading the
far?
judge, and you are misleading the court. So first take my question and
Witness,
let me
I'm
answer
asking you,
first,
did you
and
go
then
too far? Did you go too far? Did you accept that you went too far in publications?
I was supposed to do so, because if I was disobedient to the Nazi regime, I would be killed, and there was my
you were
family, and
supposed to eat
I
your
was so
publication.
scared, and everybody in Germany was scared at that time, and everybody was
Okay,
fearful
what was
due
the
to the
title of your
horrible and
publication?
turbulent
What was the
political
title of your
conditions,
newspaper,
economic
defendant?
struggle everyone was suffering. So I just took the safety for myself.
Defendant, I'm asking you, what was the title
I
of your
didn't directly mention any hateful speech, and yeah.
I did not ask you even this question. I am asking you, what is the title of your newspaper? That's it.
Okay. That's true. It means a taker. You can translate
Perfect.
it this into English as the taker.
Perfect. And can you tell me what is written at the last point in German?
As far as the last word is concerned, I had written so many articles and the publications are too many that I can't exactly remember which
Perfect.
publication or which
Okay,
article
perfect.
are you
Perfect.
referring
Point
to.
taken. Point
And
taken, Julius. Okay, perfect. Point taken, Julius. It is written, Jews are our misfortune. I asked you first question in which I asked you whether did you not did it deliberately or not. You said I did. Then secondly, I asked you what was the name of the magazine. You said The Attacker. On the same page, it is written, Jews are our misfortune. That clearly indicates you hate Jews. Secondly, you in your witness testimony admitted
let
that
me
yes,
answer.
you did go
Let
to
me make
far.
my answer clear
Wait,
first. Let me
Adil,
counsel.
I'm not
Let
asking
me
you.
Objection, Your
let me
Honor.
speak.
Yes. On what grounds?
Testifying. The attorney is testifying himself.
Oh, could you point out what exactly the prosecution attorney is testifying on?
Like he is quoting again and again thing, like he is saying that it was attacker and like the name of the magazine was the Stürmer, and he said it was the it means the striker, and the last line says this and that. So actually he is testifying,
Response?
like he is in fact badgering the witness.
Response from prosecution?
Firstly, I would like to ask, is it on the grounds of badgering the witness or is it on the grounds of testifying? Because
Prosecution counsel? I believe it is both on both counts.
perfect, Your Honor. Firstly, for the count of testifying, I did not ask any of the testifying questions. I was summarizing it and I was finalizing it. Second, I badgered the witness. The witness kept on interrupting me and did not answer the last question.
Going to the counsel testifying objection slide, but I do agree with the badgering the witness objection. I'm going to sustain badgering the witness. I believe that from my perspective, prosecution attorney, I feel like you are kind of interrupting the witness a little bit, and while they're giving their responses, and I know it's frustrating, the witness gives very long responses, but then again, you shouldn't interrupt them. And in fact, if you think they're answering too long, you can kind of just let them ramble on so that the judge can see that they're just rambling, and that kind of holds some power to you as well. So you don't have to feel the need to interrupt your witness. But please ask your last question. Prosecution, you can ask your last cross question.
Perfect. So, Mr. Julius Streicher, did you intentionally create campaigns against Jews?
Well-learned counsel, as far as the intentional dissemination of the content of my publication is concerned, I was not hateful in my publications, and I didn't directly directly mention any hatred against Jews. I was just disseminating the ordinary German belief or ordinary prevalent belief which was prevalent in Germany at that time. And I was supposed to do this by the Nazi party. If I wasn't able to do this, they will label me as the Jewish sympathizer. So I was so pressurized and feel my safety, and that's why I just followed the directions of the Nazi party, and the sole responsibility relies on the Nazi party and their secretaries and the higher hierarchies in Nazi party. So I was just a publisher, and how can a publisher be so influential in causing this Holocaust or genocide in Germany? So that's the plan.
Thank you so much, Julius. That's all from us. And no further questions, Your Honor.
Okay, is there a redirect from defense?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, then this witness is excused and defense can call its second witness to the stand.
I call Jacob to the stand. So, Mr. Jacob, where were you born?
born on the 31st of August 1897 in the city of Essen. That is very much the heartland of German industry.
Can you briefly describe your early life?
Of course. First of all, I served in the German army. At that time, my age was 17, and I even won a first class Iron Cross due to my services in the army. And after the war, I got admitted in a university. I did my PhD from there in political science. And after getting free from there, I moved towards following a career in the.
Can you describe your rise within the Nazi party?
Certainly. Firstly, in 1929, I joined the Nazi Party as a personal press referent, and simultaneously, I was the business manager of an evening newspaper, which was called Augsburger Zeitung. And afterwards, in 1931, I joined Reich Press Chamber as the press chief. And in 1933, I was promoted to be a vice president. In other words, the Reichsleiter of the Reich Press Chamber. And ultimately, in 1934, I became the Reich Press chief of Nazi Party.
What responsibilities did you have as the Reich Press chief?
As a Reich Press chief of the Nazi Party, I was tasked with ensuring that all the newspapers stayed in line with the official Nazi Party narrative. And I was assigned to oversee the publications of the Nazi Party. This included any publications to Hitler Youth or other branch of the Nazi Party. But this did not include Der Stürmer, since it was Streicher's private paper, as I have mentioned the same in my affidavit.
Can you describe the events known as the Night of the Long Knives?
Of course. The most, you can say, the pinnacle or the peak or the apex of the personal power of Hitler was the purge, which was rightly named Night of the Long Knives. And chronologically speaking, it happened on the 30th of June and on the 2nd of July in 1934, between these dates. And in these few days, Hitler ordered the murders of both high-ranking Nazi Sturmabteilung, which is abbreviated in anglicized as SA officials, as well as his political enemies.
Prevented Julius Streicher from toning down his accusations?
Very good question. The thing that prevented Julius Streicher from toning down his accusations was the Hitler's attention, but more importantly, the Hitler's opposition. I have more than once iterated in my affidavit that it goes without saying, whoever opposed even a toe, whoever went even a toe out of line with Hitler got himself executed. This was how it used to work, and this is pretty much it.
Can you describe the broader Nazi propaganda apparatus and its operations?
Yes, of course. Although Der Stürmer stood out among the many newspapers, the state apparatus and propaganda was far more complex. And
what methods did the propaganda ministry use to disseminate anti-Semitic messages?
The propaganda ministry used to create anti-Semitic textbooks. They used to distribute pamphlets, anti-Semitic messages, and the textbooks have the race as well.
What was the impact of Stürmer on the German populace, as per your Reich Press chief assessment?
Generally speaking, it's impossible to determine scientifically the exact impact of Der Stürmer. However, as Reich Press chief, my personal assessment would be that elaborate system of propaganda. Although Adil Stürmer often stood out among newspapers, the state propaganda was far more complex. I've written this before, and it did not fall directly under us because it was private venture of Julius Streicher.
What do you believe would be implication of convicting Julius Streicher from crimes against humanity?
Is how far down will this go? If today Streicher, a manager of a newspaper, is convicted basis of crimes against humanity, then what about the less popular newspapers or its peers and the writers and desks who prepared the newspaper, the editors, the whole rank and file, the whole hierarchy, the whole chain of command? What about them? And moreover, most of those who have written and managed for the newspaper of the party were not even murderous or even anti-Semitic sort. They were just men who, out of necessity, who had to feed their lives, and who by this.
Is there anything else you would like to add?
No, this is pretty much it from my side.
No further questions.
Okay, cross-examination.
Thank you, Your Honor. The prosecution will begin with the cross-examination of Mr. Otto. First of all, I would like to comment on the uniform of Mr. Otto, that it is very charming. However, I would like to ask him, is he currently serving in the army?
No, I'm not.
Then why are you wearing the uniform?
Because it was written
man?
in the... Yes?
Are you not a convicted man currently serving your sentence?
I am.
Then
I am.
what right do you have to wear a uniform?
What right do I not have to wear it?
You are convicted, currently serving a sentence in the prison. You are not the official representative of the army or even a member. Then please explain, why are you wearing the uniform of the German army?
Firstly, Land Council. The time of this military of this Nuremberg trial is far exceeds your personal curiosities, and I'm not under any obligation to answer you why I'm wearing a particular attire, I believe.
Noted. Your response has been noted. However, I would like to emphasize that you are under an obligation to answer to me, and you're not wearing just anything on as per your personal preference. You're wearing an official uniform of the army. That is why I was raising the question. However, the prosecution will continue.
Your Honor, objection.
Yes, on what grounds?
Irrelevant question.
In the last statement, I did not raise any question. I'm merely pointing out that he is obligated to answer to the prosecution's attorney, and that his uniform, him wearing an official uniform, is a representation of his biasness and how he's representing or misleading the court, that he's still associated with the German army, which he is not, which is why the prosecution is pointing out of the fact that he's wearing the official uniform, provided that he's serving currently in prison. Your Honor, in the interest of the time, the prosecution would like to move on.
Okay, great. Please move on.
Mr. Otto, were you friends with Hitler?
I've never used the word I was friends, but I did get to him through Wilkerdorf, and through him to Hitler, industrial businessman.
And the prosecution will just point out to the defense witness that please keep your answers short in the interest of the time. And secondly, in your affidavit, line number 20, you have mentioned that you did gain Hitler's favor and friendship. So,
but if you're asking, I was with Hitler, like Streicher, we were not.
Okay, however, the discrepancy is noted here because in your affidavit it is stated that you enjoyed personal friendship. Moving on, what do you know about the death of Rome, the leader of SA?
Firstly, you cannot get a discrepancy of something I have affirmed. I said I did get his favor and his friendship, close friendship like that of Goebbels.
Please move on to my next question. I've asked you what do you know about the death of leader SA?
Of leader as leader, say,
Rome, Mr.
I know
Rome, who is
exactly.
good.
Rome was planning a violent coup, and Hitler did not like it one bit. It goes without saying. And even though he was the leader of the SA, which is Nazi Sturmabteilung, a paramilitary force of the Nazi party, and that's why Hitler got him killed.
Okay. And did you personally know Mr. Julius?
Yes.
Do you know that he also enjoyed personal relationships and close friendship with Hitler?
Yes.
In your affidavit, you have clearly stated that anyone who was close to Hitler did not have any fear of Hitler attacking them or killing them. However, in your affidavit, you are also stating that that you were scared for your life. You and Mr. Streicher were scared for your life. Isn't this a discrepancy?
Can you please be more specific? I did not get what your first point was, or whether it was written
I
in my
am
affidavit.
asking. I will rephrase. I am asking that you and Mr. Streicher both had personal and close friendships with Hitler, and you are in your affidavit stating that there was threat of life to you and Mr. Streicher for going against Hitler. However, you have also stated that both of you enjoyed personal friendship, and Hitler did not attack anyone who he was personally close with.
Counsel, I would like to enlighten you on this stuff. First of all, please refrain from using the word close friendship. I never said this. Please, I did gain Hitler's attention and friendship, but it wasn't the same as Goebbels. Goebbels enjoyed immunity from purges, but me and Julius Streicher, as you have said it, we were fearful if we stepped even a toe out of line with Hitler, we will get ourselves killed, just like Roham, which you have mentioned earlier in your question.
Noted. First of all, please do not ask the attorney and do not tell the attorney what and what not to ask. And secondly, I'm pointing out a discrepancy in your own affidavit. Moving on, what do you know about the Stürmer?
What?
What do you know about the Julius Streicher's paper, Der Stürmer? Do you think it was popular?
Yes, it was popular.
Okay, then how can you allege that it had no influence on the public?
Der Stürmer was a personal newspaper venture of Julius Streicher, and among the many newspapers, the Der Stürmer was just a part, a minimal part of a far more complex and sophisticated, uh, sophisticated.
Okay, your point is taken. Will you please tell me then why it was Der Stürmer which was being posted on public buildings and not any state-sponsored paper?
My affidavit is silent on these points.
Okay, but you are aware of the facts, and as the chief, what did you say, press chief of the Nazi party, you must be aware why your party was ordering the public display of their Stürmer, a private-owned paper, and not the state-sponsored newspapers.
Also, your is very very justifiable, but I cannot defend something which I have not written stipulated in my affidavit.
Objection, Your Honor.
Yes, what grounds?
Assume facts that are not in evidence.
May I reply?
No, defense attorney, please explain your objection a bit.
Like the learned counsel is asking something that is not given in the deposition,
Okay.
in the testimony, like that is not given in the affidavit evidence we have submitted.
May the
Response from prosecution?
Yes, the prosecution is responding that first and foremost, this is the same line of questioning which the defense attorney asked from the prosecution's witness. Secondly, this is we are not alleging anything. We are merely asking from the witness what was the reason, provided that he was he enjoyed a senior position in the Nazi party, and he was the chief of the newspapers. He should be able to answer why it was not the state-sponsored newspapers which were publicly displayed, and why a private paper was displayed, while they're also alleging that it had no influence on the people.
Learned counsel, your whole story was very well received, but I would like to allege I cannot defend something which I have not
Before you make
alleged.
your statements, would you please allow the honorable judge to make to rule on the objection?
Yeah, thank you. Witness, that's something that you can respond to the prosecution attorney when they ask their question again. But I don't think this is assuming facts not in evidence. If you mean by this that your witness doesn't have enough information to respond based on their affidavit or deposition, then the witness is allowed to infer answers to cross-examination questions based on their affidavit or deposition. So if the witness doesn't know, then they can say that they don't. I will overrule that.
Can you please pose precisely, counsel?
Sorry, would you please repeat what you just stated?
Can you please pose the question more concisely?
Okay, I will. Noted. Moving on. Do you think that Der Stürmer was propagating the state propaganda?
Der Stürmer was a private newspaper. It wasn't amplifying the state propaganda. It was a private venture.
Okay, but they did comply with the state policies.
They complied with, so to speak, Hitler's opposition and again Hitler's opposition and his attention. They did not comply with anything else.
You stating that they did not comply with anything else also asserts that they did not publish any false information. However, in your affidavit, you have stated that the false information regarding the death of Rome also published by Der Stürmer.
Objection,
No,
Your
ma'am.
Honor.
I haven't alleged this in my affidavit.
What grounds?
Misquoting. It was deposition, not affidavit.
Exactly.
Your
think that-
Honor, Your Honor,
Yes.
in line 42 to 45, 46, it is clearly stated that when Rome, the leader of SA, was killed, the newspapers were provided with false information regarding the reasons for his death. And Der Stürmer was also the one who followed with the state's information and published the false information.
Is that your understanding, defense counsel?
Your
That is
Honor, I stated that the learned counsel said it's in his affidavit. Like it isn't affidavit, it is deposition. So that's why I said that the learned counsel is misquoting.
so you were just saying that she said affidavit when it was actually in deposition.
May I reply to that?
Yes.
By all means.
The honorable attorney for the defense is stating that it is a deposition. Maybe they're not actually aware that I'm currently examining Jacob Otto, and no deposition of Jacob Otto is provided in the case files. It is the affidavit of Jacob Otto. No deposition.
My bad. Apologies.
Okay.
Thank you.
Then let's keep going. Overruled.
Can I continue?
Okay. May I will rephrase my question.
All right.
Okay. Do you not agree that this humor also complied with the state policies and propagated the Nazi ideology?
I will again say it complied with please don't use the word state. You can use the word Nazi party.
I'm assuming you're telling the attorney what or what not to ask. As I have also pointed out, please don't do that. Moving on, in the interest of the time, I would ask that you said that you knew Julius Streicher, and it is also stated that he was a poor man. How do you think he was able to start his newspaper, a private paper?
Uh, exactly. He did start his newspaper without education or much capital at all, and this is in my affidavit as well. And further, I have to invent anything to cater to your question.
Okay, but it can be reasonably assumed that since Mr. Streicher did not have any capital of his own, it was Hitler who sponsored his paper, and indeed, Der Stürmer was a part of the fleet of newspaper which were propagating the state agenda.
Learn again. I have not alleged this in my affidavit that it was sponsored by Hitler.
I'm not asking that you have alleged, I'm asking whether or not it is reasonable to assume.
Come again?
I'm asking, is it not reasonable to assume that it was Hitler who was sponsoring the Der Stürmer?
I'm very sorry to affirm this. The court does not work on presumptions, it works on material evidences.
The presumptions are used to draw and point out certain facts. However, you are evading the question. Thus, I will be moving on, and I will once again ask that if Mr. Hitler was had a friendship with Mr. Streicher, then how is it not possible that Der Stürmer was also a part of the newspapers who were propagating the agenda of the state? You should be able to answer it. You were the press chief
Exactly.
officer.
I am going to answer if
Please
you
do
can
so.
bear with. Um, of course, Julius Streicher did gain Hitler's favor, friendship through Emil Kirdorf, and this is the answer to this part of your question. And what did you ask more?
Forget it. Just answer me. Do you know? Are you aware that Julius was an original Nazi?
Sorry,
Yes, he
for
was.
prosecution attorney, I'm gonna have to end your cross-examination there because time is up.
Oh, yes, Your Honor.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Does defense have any redirect of this witness?
Yeah, no, Your Honor.
Okay. Then this witness is excused. Defense rests its case in chief. And would you, since in the sake of time, would the prosecution like to immediately start with closing statements?
Honorable Judge, we gather here today in the pursuit of justice, seeking accountability for the heinous crimes committed during the darkest chapter of human history. The prosecution has charged Julius Streicher with incitement to genocide and conspiracy to crimes against humanity. His actions and the resulting atrocities demand a verdict that recognizes the gravity of his culpability. To prove the case of the prosecution, we heard compelling testimonies from Mr. Martin Borrman and Amon Leopold, who detailed Streicher's close relationship with Adolf Hitler and his pivotal role in shaping the Nazi ideology. Borman's testimony revealed how Streicher's relentless propaganda efforts directly influenced the soldiers and motivated them to continue with their dirty work. His words were a weapon as lethal as any bullet or gas chamber, shaping public opinion to accept and even support the extermination of millions. Moreover, the attorney of the prosecution would like to draw the attention of the honorable judge on the answers provided by Julius Streicher. He said that his paper was one of the most popular paper of the time, and it is admitted by him that this is an admission on his part that as the publisher, he was well aware of the influence he had on the people, and he indirectly supported the treatment of the Jews. Knowing all of this, he still continued to portray Jews as evil scum of the society and indeed incited people against them. Furthermore, he's a known original Nazi who took part in Bear Hall and was welcomed by Hitler himself when he was released from the prison. Followed by that, he was a poor man and unable to sustain himself or his family, he was still able to start a private newspaper. So it is very reasonable to assume that it was indeed backed by Hitler and Nazi party, and in return, Julius propagated their anti-Semitic propaganda through his paper Der Stürmer and played his part in the genocide committed against the Jews. And this is not to say that he did not enjoy it himself, because he was known for his hatred for Jews. Also, in the direct examination, he also admitted that he has committed the crimes against Jews motivated by his animosity. He didn't have to, in his paper, he did not have to directly use the words that he wanted the Jews to be murdered, the people should directly murder the Jews. Instead, he could have only promoted the idea, and he would have justified the actions of the German soldiers against the Jews, and it would have been enough to prove his incitement of the genocide. Furthermore, the honorable defense attorney has misled the judge. They have stated that Julius is no longer a party member. They have stated that Julius Streicher is still a party member. However, through Exhibit F, it is clearly proof that he was removed from the party and he is no longer a serving party member. Moreover, initially it was stated by the defense attorney that the witnesses of the prosecution are of unsound mind and incompetent to be witness. However, these allegations are completely baseless. Moreover, the defense attorneys repeatedly badgered the witness, not allowing them with any reasonable opportunity to respond properly to the questions of the defense attorney. Instead of proving their own arguments and establishing their case, they indulged the witnesses on minute information, which they in fact lacked the personal, for which they lacked the personal knowledge to properly answer. Overall, the defense has called Julius Streicher himself and Jacob Otto, attempting to argue the Streicher's actions were merely expressions of free speech and personal belief. However, it cannot be assumed, provided that his newspaper was publicly displayed, that he was unaware of the influence paper had on the people, while he himself was enjoying the special attention from Hitler for his publications. Streicher claimed he was unaware of full extent of genocide, attempting to distance himself from the direct consequences of his word. However, Streicher's claim of ignorance and detachment are completely hollow. His consistent and vehement anti-Semitic rhetoric was not only pervasive, but also instrumental in creating the ideological foundation for the genocide and the ideology of the Nazi Party. Streicher publications explicitly called for the annihilation of the Jews, directly inciting violence, contributing to systematic extermination efforts, as also stated by the prosecution's witness. The evidence overwhelmingly demonstrates that Julius Streicher was not a passive observer, but an active instigator. His propaganda played a crucial role in normalizing hatred and justifying the genocide committed on the Jewish people. Streicher's words were a catalyst for violence. They provided a spark that ignited one of the history's greatest horrors, and for which he may be held liable. His incitements to genocide and conspiracy to commit crimes against humanity are crimes of the highest order. Streicher's propaganda incited hatred that culminated in the deaths of millions of innocent people. Justice demands that we hold him accountable for his role in these atrocities. Honorable Judge, the attorney emphasizes that the actions of Julius Streicher are a stark reminder of the power of words and the devastating consequences they can have. We must ensure that such crimes are met with full weight of justice to prevent their recurrence. On this account, the prosecution submits that Julius Streicher may be charged for the offenses of incitement to genocide and conspiracy to crimes against humanity. That is all from the prosecution. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Would defense like to present their closing argument now?
Yeah, sure. May it please the court, the opposing counsel, and the judge. Today we stand here in defense of our client who is wrongly accused of a heinous crime. Throughout this trial, we have meticulously examined the evidence presented by the prosecution and have shown that their case is built on assumptions and conjectures rather than concrete facts. Your Honor, the burden of proof lies solely with prosecution. It is their responsibility to provide evidence that leaves no room for doubt. Yet, on circumstantial evidence and speculation, they have failed to present a coherent narrative that connects our client to the crime beyond any reasonable doubt. Moreover, they have presented witnesses whose testimonies lack credibility and are riddled with inconsistencies. We have exposed these inconsistencies during cross-examination, revealing the unreliability of their accounts. The prosecution case rests on shaky grounds. There are many lacunas in prosecution case which creates a reasonable doubt. Firstly, talking about Martin Borrman. Martin Borrman has a personal interest in the outcome of this, and for that purpose, he construed facts that rendered the defendant guilty of a genocide, which in fact he was neither in a position of power nor did he has any say in the policy making of the Nazi regime. He was simply a tool in the hands of an enormously powerful, racist, ultra-nationalist, murderous regime, whose only ideology was to make Germany great by killing all those who were not Germans. Now, coming towards the second witness, that is Amon Leopold, it is proved through his cross-examination that he is mentally unsound. Your Honor, having unsound mind means that not of a sound mind, memory, or understanding. We have asked so many questions from him like his age, his nationality, the role of his organization, the symbol of his organization, and unfortunately, he does not remember his own age. So what can we expect from him? As he was unable to give the answers to these basic questions which person should remember on his fingertips, this clearly shows the contradiction between his testimony and affidavit. That contradiction might be due to his unsound mind or due to any reason. But in both the cases, Your Honor, it makes him not credible witness. So we request to impeach him impeach the witness. Your Honor, we called Jacob in our favor. Jacob testimony proves that Julius Streicher was aware of gruesome consequences of not following the commands of the Nazi party and could not tone down his anti-Semitic narrative for fear of being called a Jew sympathizer. He was a small cog in a much larger state propaganda apparatus that punished dissent and coerced many into propagating its ideology of hatred and bloodshed. Many of them were forced to do its dirty work because they had no other means of supporting their families in an economically harrowing interwar period. Your Honor, in our opening statement, we outlined our case theory, which remains unwavering. We have demonstrated that the prosecution has failed to meet the burden of proof required in a criminal case. They have not proven beyond a reasonable doubt that our client committed the alleged crime. Additionally, the prosecution has not successfully established the elements required to prove the charges against Streicher. Throughout this trial, we have exposed the gaps in the prosecution case, highlighting their reliance on assumptions and weak conjectures. We have shown that their case is built on a foundation of doubt rather than concrete evidence. In conclusion, Your Honor, we urge you to carefully consider the evidence presented in this trial. We have demonstrated that the prosecution has failed to meet its burden of proof. Our client is innocent of genocide until proven guilty, and the prosecution has not proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. Thank you for your attention and for upholding the principles of fairness and justice throughout this trial. That's all, Your Honor.
Okay. Thank you very much. Does the prosecution have a rebuttal to that closing argument? Because
The prosecution started, there was no discrepancy proved in the witness statements of the prosecution, and there were merely fancy words used by the defense attorney. However, as far as they've alleged that the charges are not proved, however, all the elements and the ingredients for genocide and incitement are proved. The council would like to highlight that conspiracy is proved by Streicher's involvement in the Nazi party and his pivotal role in publishing the anti-Semitic propaganda. So indeed, he indulged in the conspiracy against the Jews. The agreement was reached when he joined the Nazi party, and he shared the same objective of persecuting the Jewish people. His intent was proved through his participation in the party, and the content of the Der Stürmer show that his intent was to promote anti-Semitic ideology. So indeed, all the ingredients of conspiracy are proved. As far as the incitement is concerned, it has been proved by the prosecution that incitement does not mean that he had to use direct words asking for the murder of Jews. Instead, he only had to establish that he only had to establish that the killings of Jews were justified, which he did through his publishing, and which indeed proved that he incited the people for the genocide committed against the Jews. That is all. All of these facts combinedly prove that the case of prosecution was proved beyond the shadow of reasonable ground. Thank you.
first of all, I'd like to congratulate you guys for making it through to the end of this trial, to the end of your first trial in particular. I believe your next trial will be starting soon, but I will give you some brief comments. So, I'm going to start with attorneys. Overall, I feel like this trial has been a little bit aggressive, as in, I feel like there was a lot of instances where attorneys were speaking over each other, or if the attorney was speaking over the witness, or things like that. And I just wanted to know, in general, I think, although I appreciate that all of you are being very assertive, just in general, in court, or like even in a mock trial court setting, I feel like it's very important to maintain professionalism, and it's very important to be nice, because while it is very, of course, important to be assertive, to make your arguments, at the same time, you want to seem likable. You want to seem kind of charming to the judges. So, in a way, I feel like all the attorneys here could tone down the aggressiveness a little bit. That is one general comment. But otherwise, let's just go through like statements, direction, cross, and I'll just give one main piece of feedback for each. So for statements, I feel like I liked the closing statements more than the opening statements in this case, because I appreciated how the closing statements felt like they were a bit less scripted than the openings. In the opening statements, I couldn't feel a lot of emotion coming out. I could tell that there were a lot of facts in this case, that I was going to hear a lot of stuff, but I didn't feel it in your delivery so much that you were telling me a story. I could tell that you were condemning a man or you were defending a man, but I couldn't really tell how you actually felt about this case. And in that way, I'd like your opening statements to have a little bit more emotion to it, to really kind of tell me a story instead of just factually laying out law, this is what we're charging him with. Because at the end of the day, a jury or the judge is a person, and a person can get lost in facts if you talk too fast. A person can sometimes maybe not understand or not keep up with what you're saying if you're making too many logical arguments. So at the end of the day, it's more important also to appeal to the jury's emotions rather than to their sense of logic. I think that's something you can take away for both opening statements and closing statements. Like, for example, for the prosecution attorney's rebuttal, first of all, I appreciate you taking that rebuttal opportunity, because it's always good to kind of start closing arguments with your side and then end closing arguments with your side. So you should always take the rebuttal, and I'm glad that this prosecution attorney, you did that. but I do think that I got a little bit lost in your rebuttal because it seemed like you were trying to tackle a lot of points that the defense attorney had made in their closing argument. And in trying to address all of those points, I found myself a little bit lost in your argumentation. And I do feel like since you just had 30 seconds for rebuttal, it could have been more effective if you focused on one key point that the defense made that made no sense and that you were calling them out for it, and you just articulated that one point very slowly. And if it was powerful, then it would stick with me. And I feel like that would be very effective. But okay, now let's go on to direct examinations. So direct examinations, I could tell that all of you were kind of like reading or like that it was scripted out because I do feel like the question and answers are a little bit robotic, and I feel like next time it's good to understand what content you're going to go over and to hit on the points that you want to cover, but try to make your direct examinations a bit more conversational, like you're actually having a conversation rather than being like, I ask you a formal question, I give you a formal response. That's my comment for directs. For cross-examinations, a very big point that applies to pretty much all the attorneys here, except for the last cross-examination, which was a little bit better. I feel like we are arguing with the witness a little bit too much because I could tell, like for both of the defense cross-examinations in the first half of this trial, I could tell what points that you're trying to make. However, those are points that instead of asking the witness to confirm about Julius Streicher was this, Julius Streicher was that, right? These are points that you should articulate in closing arguments. And for the witness, instead of asking them to agree with your conclusions, you should only ask them questions that seek to reveal facts. And if you're trying to attack the witness's credibility, kind of a weird way to go about it is to say, you something something something, can you explain why blah blah blah? Because if you ask an open-ended question like that, the witness can basically say whatever they want. But if you build up your questions in a short manner, but in a way that gets them to reveal their bias to the judge, then they won't be able to deny essentially the questions that you're asking them. And then you will allow the judge to see that the witness is biased rather than saying, witness, you're biased, right? How do you explain that? That's kind of blunt. First of all, if I haven't read the case, I wouldn't know immediately what you're talking about, and there's not enough build-up for me to realize that the witness being biased is actually very damaging for them. So I feel like that's something you all can work on for cross-examinations. Instead of arguing with the witness, you seek to reveal facts with shorter questions, and you show the judge or the jury that the witness is not credible, instead of telling them that the witness is not credible. Okay, and lastly, for witnesses, as a general comment, you guys all fought a little bit too much on cross-examination. I think you guys were all trying to elaborate, and you definitely have the right to elaborate. That's very important. However, it's important to identify which questions that the attorney asks you that aren't super bad for your case and which questions are bad. So if the attorney is asking Julius Streicher, what is the name of your paper, then there's no need to say anything more than the name of your paper. There's no need to like say a sentence or to elaborate or to justify something else, or like your circulation rates. If they're asking for a fact, just give fact, and then you can move on. But if they are asking you a particularly harmful question, then you can start elaborating. But once they ask the question again, just again, answer it flatly. Because frankly, if you are saying a lot of the same things to the judge, then the judge can also get easily confused when you're elaborating on your cross questions. And if I get confused, I can't tell what you're talking about, and then I wouldn't know how to give you a good score. So again, always focus on trying to ensure that the judge can understand you, because mock trial is as much about like poking holes or tearing down the other side's case as much as it is making the jury not confused, and allowing them to understand your case. So that's one thing to note. But otherwise, I liked all of the witness costumes. Even though I know Mr. Jacob Dietrich got kind of picked on for his costume because it shows that he is in the army when he is not. I liked all of your costumes in general. They're all very believable costumes. And the attorneys all look very professional. Your backgrounds are super professional. Yeah, and apart from that, I don't have any other general comments. I have left specific comments, however, in the ballots that you guys will receive later. Do you guys have any questions?
Your Honor, can you
No.
elaborate a bit about the objections? Like, for example, if one attorney is raising objections with the intent of explaining the time limit that is given for of 10 minutes, so how do you counter that?
Oh, I would say generally objections shouldn't be factored into the time. Like if a direct examination should last 8 minutes and there's an objection battle in the middle, then the time should be paused when the objection is made so that the objection can be argued outside of the time.
Perfect.
Yeah, that's generally how it happens. But with objections in general, I think you guys all made objections. I liked the amount of objections in this trial, and I do think that some things were very objectionable, like some patterns of asking cross-examination questions, of like saying a bunch of facts and then asking the witness to agree with you is not really an appropriate cross-examination style because that's testifying, and I appreciate that the opposing side objected to that. But I do think that you guys can try to focus on making content or substantive objections in addition to form objections. So there were a lot of objections on like relevance, leading question, compound question, counsel testifying, vague, misquoting the witness. However, these are all form objections. These are all like how the attorney is asking the question instead of what they're asking, or how information is being presented on direct and not what is being presented. So you guys would think about making more objections to things such as speculation or improper character evidence or hearsay or things like that that are kind of more about the content of what's being said rather than the form. And I think if you were to also listen to those objections, then that's kind of getting you to a more advanced level of mock trial objection.